So in part one, I talked about how, at least hypothetically, we can see that there could be language learning techniques and methods which are bad in the sense that they are not effective for anyone. No one has ever got good results using them. We might call these techniques that are universally ineffective. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you can be sure that you don't get stuck with a universally ineffective method so that you don't waste any time. And believe it or not, there actually are a lot of universally ineffective methods out there, but this is something that I'm going to be showing you how you can confirm for yourself so that you don't just have to take my word for it. So basically, because methods and results are correlated, like I spoke in the first video, if the main proponent of a language learning technique or method is very good at the foreign languages that they've studied, then you can be sure that the method is not universally ineffective, because we know that, well, at least for this person who's selling the method, it worked well for them, at least assuming that they actually used that method. On the other hand, if the main proponent of a language learning technique or method has not reached a high level in any foreign language, then it's very unlikely that the technique is going to be actually very effective. Now, when I say this, I often hear the rebuttal that in sports, sometimes some of the very best sports coaches are not actually good at the sport which they coach. And therefore, just because someone isn't very good at a foreign language, that doesn't mean that the advice they give about how to learn a foreign language necessarily won't be effective. But I think that this is kind of a false analogy because in many ways, language learning is nothing at all like sports. For example, if you want to become a professional sports athlete, you probably have to start training in that sport from a very young age and spend over a decade pretty much dedicating your entire life to that sport. On the other hand, pretty much anyone should be able to reach a very high level in a foreign language after just a few years, no matter how late they start in their life. So basically, getting fluent in a foreign language is much easier than becoming a professional sports athlete. The hurdle is much lower, which means that if someone wasn't able to use a given technique to reach a high level in a foreign language, you should be very suspicious whether that person really knows what they're talking about. Now, of course, there is the possibility that someone came up with a really good language learning method. They are still in the process of using it, so they don't have any personal results yet, but the method is really good, and in the future, that person will go on to get good results, or anyone else who uses this person's new method will go on to get good results. Of course, we can't say for sure that this isn't the case, but it's very unlikely, and if you're going to be taking advice from someone who doesn't have any personal results, then you're taking a big risk of completely wasting your time. And so I don't think this risk is really ever justified taking. And so if you want to be safe and make sure that you're not wasting your time, I would only take advice from people who have results to prove that the method worked, at least for them, right? Now, the other thing I have to talk about is how can you actually know whether someone is good at their foreign languages or not? Because, like I explained in the fluency illusion video, you can't really trust your subjective sense of how good someone seems to be at the language, right? Just because someone seems to be very fluent and they sound like a native speaker to you, that doesn't necessarily mean they're actually at that level. They could be at a relatively low level. Just due to the fluency illusion, you can't really tell that that is the case. On the other hand, you also can't trust their self-reports because, let's face it, a lot of people talking about language learning methods and stuff, they're trying to get more popular on the internet, they're trying to make money or whatever, and so they have a lot of motivation to exaggerate the level that they've achieved and basically lie that they might be better than they are. Again, not saying that this is definitely the case, but you have to suspect that this may be the case given the circumstances at hand. So basically, the only way that you can be sure that someone has actually reached a high level in a foreign language is if you find a video of them speaking the foreign language, or at least find some text they wrote in the foreign language and show it to a native speaker and get feedback from them. Because native speakers are really the only people truly equipped to judge the level of a foreign language speaker of a language. So what I recommend doing is if you find someone who you are considering taking their advice, find as many videos that you can of them speaking their target languages, and then find some native speakers and really ask them to give feedback. And when you're asking for feedback, the sort of things that I recommend saying are, first of all, if you closed your eyes, would you be able to tell that they're a native speaker or not? In most cases, the answer will probably be yes, because that's an extremely high standard. But even if they say, yeah, I can tell they're foreign, ask them what gives it away and how hard is it for them to tell. Also, you can ask them to rate them between 1 and 10 if 10 was a native speaker, or even 1 through 100. And also, you can compare them to the other people whose advice you're considering taking. And that way, for example, if there's 3 people who all say kind of different things, and you don't know whose advice you should really listen to, then maybe you show one video from each person to a native speaker, and then the native speaker tells you, oh, this person is way better than the other two. Well, that's probably going to give you the confidence to trust that person. So to give a little story from my own personal life, basically, I knew about the AJAT method for quite a while before I actually started to execute it myself. And the reason why I decided to really go forth and give it my all to the AJAT method was that when I was taking a small vacation to Japan and I was staying with a host family, I showed my host mother a video of Katsumoto speaking Japanese, and she said that if she closed her eyes, she would assume that Katsumoto was just a Japanese person. And it was hearing this coming from the mouth of a native Japanese speaker that I really realized, whoa, Katsumoto must really know what he's talking about, and the stuff that he's saying must really work. And then that gave me the motivation to really dedicate myself to the method.